right, friends, Zig coming in on the top. Today on the show, we have Mark Stewart. You may know him from the pop group, Mark Stewart and the Mafia, or his solo project, Mark Stewart, which has a new album coming out. It's called Versus, and it features an array of amazing guests. Lee Scratch Perry, KK Noel, Mike Watt, just to name a few. Reoccurring listeners, you know how much we love Mike Watt. But Mark, this was a really fun conversation. He's a really fun guy, really jokey, and it was a good time. And there's some really insightful moments in here. We had a communication mishap at the very beginning, just literally lining up what platform we were going to be talking on. Why can't I get I don't get the call. You're calling, and we were going through Howard at the moment, and Howard's just a champ and a really cool guy, and worked everything out. So the very beginning of this convo is just going to be kind of praise towards Howard. We're going to listen to a track off Versus featuring KK Noel and Mike Watt. This is All My Senses. Mark Stewart, the album's Versus featuring KK Noel and Mike Watt. All right, friends, we're going to get into it. If you dig Mark's music, you probably would dig Per Ubu. I did a conversation with David Thomas of Per Ubu a few episodes back. So if this is stuff you're into and you want to dive even deeper, check out that episode too. If you guys can rate, review, subscribe to the podcast on any of the podcast platforms, it helps me keep talking to cool guests and sharing those insights with you. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Mark Stewart.
No, anyway, I appreciate Howard. He must have the patience of a saint.
For sure. And he does I don't know. He goes over and beyond, I feel. He's a good guy. Anytime I reach out for whatever.
The cool thing is, he was in a band himself. He played with somebody from Half Japanese.
Was it
he knows...
The Nurses?
Hey?
The Nurses?
Is that what they were called?
Was it the band The Nurses?
I don't know. Is that what they were called?
I think so. I've been trying to figure out. He hasn't told me yet. So,
yeah, somebody. I believe Jad Fair was in Half Japanese, but he knows. You know, he's one of us. He goes way back, which is kind of nice. So, and I've got a funny feeling that he's a kind of gatekeeper, especially for younger journalists and stuff. They trust that he. I don't know. You know, but it depends if he's broke. But I think he works with cool people, you know.
Well, for sure. I reached out to him to talk with Watt, and and then have been talking with a million of his clients, not a million, but a lot, and it's each one's been equally as exciting and interesting as Watt. So that was
because we need gatekeepers, you know, and it's difficult for you guys because the problem is that. You know, because I used to go out with a journalist and you get so much stuff, but if one email you get is all cool stuff, you can sort of trust his nose, you know, because we used to have this manager. When the pop group reformed, we had this guy who was looking after us called Paul Smith, right?
Right.
And he was looking after Throbbing Gristle, Suicide, Pansonic. You know, he was the go-to guy if festivals wanted a weird stage.
But they know the audience, you know, and they know that they respect the art. So it is hard to find, how you're saying, a gatekeeper, especially that can see into that.
And often, I mean, the best thing is sometimes businessmen are even more maverick than the artists, like Daniel Miller at Mute, Jeff Travis at Rough Trade, Stewart at Soul Jazz. If it wasn't for guys like that, we couldn't be free, you know.
Right.
They were in fact protecting the barbarian, you know, they were fighting back the barbarians at the gate so we could be free to do what we want. Bit like the Medicis, I suppose.
Yeah.
Are you recording already?
Yeah, well, I got that running, but I won't put that in. That's just us kind of...
No, keep that. That's fine. Right. That's fine. Yeah.
All right, well, yeah, I just like to put that out there at the beginning because some people get real weirded out. But
I thought that was my job.
Well, perfect. This will go great.
Have a competition, dude. Let's see. Weird arm wrestling. Let's see who can weird who. All right, I'm up for this. Face to face. Don't blink. Do not blink.
Very nice.
But thank God we're not in a bar. Thank God we're not in a bar.
It'd be way more fun. But yeah, so
only if Howard was there.
Right, then it'll be We definitely would have lost him on that, that end. But awesome, man. So one thing I found fascinating about your career is most musicians, like they take the work and they go into the shed, right? They'll take the skill thing they're working on and shed it out. You guys started in a shed. Can you set the scene on that? Like your first gig being in a shed for a birthday party. Can you set up how that went?
Well, birthday party. The birthday party came to see us. They were influenced by us. No, well, basically, Bristol's kind of country town. Right, I'm not sure about Cleveland, but it's. I mean, there's industry there, but the thing is, it was more like a barn, and the stage was built from chicken shit. So basically, once you got out of the town limits, you could like play or make music outside in the sticks a lot louder. And you know, we've got this stuff in Bristol called cider. This rough stuff made like poutine made from apples. So well, yeah, I mean the beginnings of our endeavors into whatever you call what we do, or what I do, it was very, very strange because the craziest thing was punk rock outside of like the fashionistas in London was very, very. It was the rough people that got into punk rock. It was the people that got thrown out of the football grounds. You know, I don't know. You know, it was crazy. You'd be covered in spit. People climbing on top of each other. But it was great fun, and it was kind of like, to a certain class, it was really enabling. That was the interesting thing about punk rock, you know, because a lot of us thought, you know, there was nothing. You didn't dream. Maybe if you became a footballer or something, or you won the lottery, you didn't. You know, the only thing was getting the. There was a bus that used to go to. Used to have Shadow Factory written on the thing, and you had to get on at 6 o'clock, and they built some planes called the Shadow, Bramanson Shadow or something. My dad worked out there, you know, and it's the sort of factory you don't come back from until you're like 84. You don't even get a gold watch.
Damn.
So I'm quite pleased, really. I mean, you know,
yeah,
I work hard, but to be able to do what you enjoy doing. And it's funny you should say autism, but I question any of those sorts of tags, but somebody said to me the other day, an autist, instead of an artist, an autist. Right?
Right.
And,
right.
You know, who know, for me, normal's weird.
Agreed. Well, like
and I'm looking at you, dude. Beanies are even weirder.
I know. I know.
All you need is like a Zapata mustache.
Yeah, then it'll be.
You just had surgery or something. I'm not going to make any jokes. You just come out of hospital.
No, I just got out of bed.
Motorbike accident. Well, the car came off better than your face, dude. Anyway, I must say you've got the face for podcasts. We used to say you got the face.
Fair, I'll give you that.
We have these comedians in England called Morecambe and Wise, and one of their catchphrases, they used to pretend to be newsreaders, and they'd stand up, and they wouldn't have any trousers on.
Yeah.
And from an early age, we thought all the newsreaders, and even the female news, we thought they didn't have anything below the shirt and tie, you know.
Yeah.
That's the state of the media, though, these days. Hey, let's get a little bit edgy.
Gotta get them viewers right.
Yay!
Jeez. Oh man, but yeah. So, and your dad was a scientist, right?
No, yeah, you're there now. Yeah,
okay.
But he had to like go to night school. He had to work his way through. You know, he didn't go to like university or something. He had to learn in the evenings. You know.
Yeah. Damn. Well, that's where the hustle comes from, then. Jeez. You guys.
Yeah. But the interesting thing was, you know, in the early 60s and in the late 50s, my mum and dad there was a thing called skiffle here, which was like a take on sort of I think they're kind of Appalachian sort of hillbilly songs, Rock Island Line and whatever. Anyway, these English guys started playing with like a tea chest and a washboard and did this weird like English take on American roots, really. And just before rock and roll, and they all wore duffel coats and went on Ban the Bomb marches. It was quite a weird period, kind of beatniks, English beatniks, right?
Right.
But my dad and all his mates were really, really into science fiction, English science fiction. And English science fiction in the late 50s was pretty out there. It was like the English equivalent of cyberpunk in the 80s, right? And the thing is, they were really, really idealistic in a similar way to the way we were idealistic in the punk times, right? And they really believed they could change the world and build these. They tried to build the things that these science fiction writers were dreaming about.
That's fascinating. And
yeah.
So working on time travel in the evenings, like.
No, that's you guys at Montauk. We went English always a bit more medieval, dude. We've got enough history. We don't need to find any. I hear the Vikings went there first, though. Did you realize that America, the mayor of Bristol?
I lost you there in a second.
Bristol.
Yeah.
A boat left Bristol a bit before the other guys who claimed to, obviously the Vikings were there and there were people, there's people going backwards and forwards throughout time. But
right.
And it's connected up to on the land masses. Anyway, but there was a guy. There were these people called the merchant venturers because Bristol's like a big port town, right? And there were big connections to America. And there was a guy, John Cabot went, right? But the guy who paid for the vessel, who was in charge of the local trade board, who were called the merchant venturers, his name was Alan Merrick, MerYck. So A. Merrick. Get it? Put an A at the end, which you would if you were a Bristolian sailor, a little bit worse. America. Get it?
I got
So that's why you guys speak a bit weird, because you got the burr from us. You got all the weird Devon accents from all the people, because it was basically the freaky religious nut and all the nutters, all the complete outsiders that got pushed off England over there. Anyway.
Yeah, that's why it's always been crazy.
Yeah, that's where Per Ubu come from.
Right.
Cleveland's got such an amazing history, though, dude. I mean,
I was gonna Rocket from the Tombs. Television's first out of state gig was in Cleveland.
That's Psychic. Psychic. I love television. There were cool bands there in the 60s, right, as well.
Yeah. But so you guys ended up touring with Per Ubu, and so I still love the guy. He came to see us in Brighton. Yeah.
He's just a big huggy bear. Dave Thomas. I love the guy. Oh, and I was saying that him and Charles from This Heat they were like such role models. It was like an older person who stayed weird. Do you know what I mean? It gave us hope that we didn't have to try and get rid of the sharp edges. Oh, legend, absolute legend. I mean, Data Panic. I mean, what? Per Ubu, Chrome. What? How they say the pop group were prescient or that was ahead of the. But I mean, Data Panic in the year zero.
Yeah. Was it? I talked with Dave Thomas a few months ago, and he hasn't let up. Like the stuff they're doing now is equally as it's.
Yeah.
And it's to organize music like that is like such another level. It's not like some people hear and they hear randomness and obscure, like they can't follow these patterns. But when you talk to him about it, there's a pattern.
The metric, right? Guy, totally. It's like Michelangelo. It's like, and then behind the thing, it's like you look at some abstract paintings, but they've still put on that grid. That what is it? The golden mean. The certain ratio. I mean, no. He's for one thing, there's an order to his chaos, but he still challenges. The interesting thing is, it's like with Ornette Coleman or something, they're so structured that they can go out there.
Right. You got to know the rules to break them.
Splurge, and we kind of do. Sometimes we write like perfect pop songs and demolish them, because otherwise, if you try and ghost out or freak out something, it just turns into a blurb if it isn't highly structured already. people go mad at me saying this could be a huge hit, you know.
Yeah. well, that's the thing. Like one odd time, anything that's outside that 4/4 or that common thing everyone's used to feeling it's a weird experience.
A friend of mine just started making music and waltz timing.
And okay, so all in 3/4.
Yeah.
And how's that been panning out?
Well, yeah, you just kind of, you know, it's quite weird because everybody is so much on the grid,
right?
That the slightest, if you move their napkin, they lose it these days, you know.
Yeah.
But you can see people, you know, people realign, and some people you can see they've lost their chains.
It's interesting.
You see what I'm saying? Because we're kind of locked down by all this kind of. By all these things that we're meant to be or meant to do or manners or customs or whatever, it stops freedom and intuition sometimes. Do you know what I mean? And then suddenly, when an artist throws a curveball, it opens the world up again, and the rainbow comes out. You know,
definitely. And it's interesting that it's because even 3/4 your waltz time, that's still thrown in common time signatures, at least with like folk music and like certain genres, but just even like something that was super like kind of popular, accepted, and had like these expectations, like when there's like this certain time frame or canvas, there's these parameters that usually, well, the art starts or the song stops at the end of the canvas, and then like, but if you paint on the wall, that's not the same thing. That's something
exactly else. One of the best things I saw, I was just in this in a small town, you know, like those funny galleries where the wife or the husband is an artist or something, you know, homemade sort of.
Yeah.
And the picture, they were painting like a tree or something, right? But the thing came out over the edge of the frame, so it kind of broke the narrative. Yeah, I love shit like that. It leaked.
Yeah, and like musically, when you do that, what's that? That's an odd time. That's an odd sound. That's a complete turn of form because it's kind of organizing sounds. In Peru,
improvisation. When I first saw Derek Bailey, right, this free jazz guitarist, I mean, to be able to harness, like pull the horses in your brain, full stop, turn around like on a wagon train and drive backwards into your own idea of who you are is mind blowing.
Right. Yeah.
I told you I'd outweird you, dude.
I'm betting on it.
Bristol Rovers.
I'm betting on it, man.
I got more where that's coming from. Do you think you could teach me?
To teach you? I think you can teach me, man. You got. I've been doing the deep dive when Howard sent me the new stuff. I'm like, so the kind of before departing from Perubu.
That's a good. I like that. That's a good reaction. The new stuff. Like,
well, no.
Whoa. No. I like it. Like
it is at least. I mean, I'm sure you've put it out or have been done with it with verses for a while. I'm sure it's old now to you, but
no. I've had it locked in the cupboard. You know, it's been locked under the stair. The golem only comes out when it comes out to everybody. No. I don't no. I just hold. You know, it's scratching at the doors, dude.
Okay, so, but like going through that record and going through like everything, trying to like see how it led up to it, is you can definitely teach me some stuff. That's what I'm trying to say.
No, that's not true. No. It's like what did Audette Coleman said? You have to learn everything to unlearn it. No. Mm-hmm. I'm learning, man. I'm learning. And one day you wake up and you think, everything you knew or you thought you'd known up to the day before was complete and utter nonsense.
Definitely. And I think that's a healthy mindset to have because it keeps that learning process fresh and it keeps that ego of, I'm a pentatonic, you know, shredder down. You can learn to get out there. But like when you guys are playing with like Perubu as like one of these kind of formative groups, like when your group's just kind of getting together, because that was before you guys recorded.
We were in school, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool, yeah.
So how did what's this the takeaway from where is it like we got to be more like these guys? How do we hang with these
because I
guys?
mean no, because the funny thing was we had I didn't really have any intention of being a musician, right? And I'm quite a big, I was quite a big teenager, and Bristol's quite a big sort of gang football-y. It's quite a rough town, especially when you're young. And it was only because of going to punk rock for the crack, if you like, or be able to wear like weird clothes, that suddenly we thought we could dress up and, we could wear our clothes and jump up and have a laugh on the stage. We didn't have any airs and graces that we wanted to be a weird band or whatever. We thought we were right. We thought we were doing all right. And to us, it was quite normal what we were making, right? But I stopped and looked back. We put out this track called Feed the Hungry, right? And there was some film that Don Letts did it way back in the day. And I was watching it with the bass player, right? And we said to each other, we're all playing different songs at the same time. Rushing towards the end without even looking at each other. It's like, well, yeah. But we it's just an energy transfer. So we weren't really in awe of anybody. We were just doing what we were doing. And it's no different to me being on stage than it was like standing at the bar or going out to the shops. I just sort of lumber around, and I don't shout at people all the time, but so, I've met some supposedly hyper incredible people, but I wasn't in awe of them or thought, and the sort of people and the sort of things I'm into, they're just cool people anyway. And the reason they're cool is because they haven't got any airs and graces and they haven't got an attitude.
Beautiful. Well, that in a way, it kind of makes me think about what you said about your father trying to make these like science fiction things happen and like living in this kind of like ethos of ethical like code that came from diving into this thing and being more into that and surrounding what that code is and finding yourself within that. Sounds like punk rock and like people just being themselves. Was that for you?
Well, no, not even being themselves, because you never know who you don't want to be yourself, because you don't want to define yourself, is my philosophy. But being allowed not to. Do you understand what I'm saying? Being allowed not to define. What was that thing? Permission to go, Burroughs called it, or something. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Because if you put the limitation up of this is who I am, I will fall into this form. I am the classical musician.
You become a cliche. You become a cliche within seconds. Yeah.
That's a beautiful way to think of it. Very cool.
And that is one of the reasons why I threw out my hook to these other wild animals that I'm collaborating with on verses, because I had no idea what was going to happen. I just knew they were very, very strong characters. So right. I didn't have a preconception as to how each thing was what was going to happen. I wasn't asking them to do anything. I just threw some meat at them, and they threw back some bones, and I sat on the hill of bones. It's whoa. And I don't think, even I don't understand what's going on, but I know, and with this one, when I listen to it, and when I listen to I can only handle one thing at a time, because there's so much. It's so dense with new ideas from me coming from the other people, and the sparks in the clash, right? When people say about Veneer of Democracy or Why or whatever, that that it was full of it was a myriad of possibilities or whatever. I'm feeling that myself with this one, because I don't, I'm not trying to digest it, but I'm just hearing, like when you hear a record and you hear a different sound every time you hear it. But I'm hearing like whole films in just one like snare drum sound that the Ye Gods make. I mean, it's really exciting for me, because it's like a blind taste. When they put on those adverts, when you taste if it's butter or margarine. God knows what it is. We used to play this game at Christmas time called Nelson's Eye, when you'd wear a blindfold and we'd go and find like rotten eggs and stuff in the kitchen, you'd put your hand or your finger in something and have to try and decide what it was.
It's brains. Nope, spaghetti. Aw. So with like
no brainer, dude, no brainer.
So with verse, like how like are you sending out like so one track that kind of if in the senses or yeah, right? Oh shoot, now I'm forgetting. Now you're weird. All of my senses. The track with KK
Grant Hart, yeah.
And Mike Watt. So like
Grant Hart wrote it, the guy from Husker Du, and that was really crazy. For me to cover a song by somebody from Husker Du is just the most out there idea. It's like me covering a Carpenter's song. It's just like what? But you know what I mean? But sometimes something just really sticks with you, like Crowded House, or you know, I Want to Know What Love Is. Something just means something to you, and you want to. Have you heard of Lieback? The Yugoslavian band, they do these really weird versions. They did a version of our song "We Are Time." They do it's just mental. They do these really weird takes on I
haven't heard that, but I'll have to check that out. So they take the
they wear like antlers on stage. He's got like a horn sort of a thing on his head with antlers. He sings like this.
That sounds sick. Very cool. I definitely have to check him out. But like, so do you send like audio take, like vocal take to Watt, or how did like how with that?
No. Quite a lot of these things were done. A lot of the roots and a lot of the work on this stuff was done before whatever happened in the last 2 years, right? Okay. So Mike, somebody was making a film about me, and I was living in Berlin, and Mike was in town playing with Iggy. And I said to the filmmaker, he was constantly trying to get like what people he thought were celebrities, or people who were sort of mates of mine, just other musicians who've got famous, who referenced me to talk about me in this film. And I said, I don't want to just spend all day long phoning up, trying to chase like Z-rate celebrity booty to try and sell my own booty, you know?
Yeah.
Then why don't I interview some of my heroes? I mean, I was working with Kenneth Anger at the time. I was hanging out with this filmmaker called Bruce LaBruce, blah, 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 blah. And Iggy was in town. So it didn't make it in the film for some reason, but I sat and interviewed Iggy about how he was so into Tamla Motown growing up in Detroit, you know, and it was just a lovely thing. And Mike was playing bass, and Steve Mackay was playing. You know, it was a proper student gig. But what was really interesting, it was in Spandau, right? Which was the prison where they kept Rupert Hess, right?
Okay.
Yeah. But there was a noise limit because there was a lot of housing near there. But when you listen to the Stooges quietly, you can really hear that kind of free jazz ESP records interplay between the sax and whatever. You know, it's quite similar to what John Cale did with Nico on Marble Index. You know, people think of the Stooges as a full-on, like, you know, straight to the jugular sort of, you know, huge kind of full-on, you know, heavy, dirgy, like sleep, you know, what they now call stoner rock sound. But when you listen to it quietly, the interplay between the sax and the guitars and stuff is amazing.
Definitely. And that they're close to Sun Ra. They're close to a lot of the free jazz that was going on, and the psychedelic Stooges. Just that their early stuff was way out there, like compared to where it went.
People don't realize that. People don't realize that people like Sun Ra and Cecil Taylor were like freaking out and improvising in what they called it in a jazz way, but even like Eddie Harris, electric and stuff. Obviously Miles with Live Evil and stuff. Yeah. But they were doing the 40s and 50s what later on Hendrix and the you know, and the Stooges and MC5, Pearls Before Swine are like, you know, Electric Eels. It's pure on jazz, freak out improvisations, really, just through amps.
Yeah.
Drones, similar to Lamont Young. You know, because people put stuff in genres, they think, oh, this is Fluxus, or this is, they can't see that all these things are connected. And in those happenings, people would be doing like performance art and full on sort of psychedelic light shows and cut up experimental films, like that weird footage of the Velvets with Gerard Malinger with a whip, and do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. With Andy Warhol's tour thing they would do, where they would bring all that stuff and they. Yeah. I think they only took that to L.A., right? It was New York and L.A. and then anyway. But no, it's interesting that like it's kind of like those are the influences that are around, but it's kind of goes back to the limiting, knowing, like defining yourself in a way. It's if you define that as punk rock, that's all you'll hear, and if you define it as
which is a pity, which is what happened in England quite quickly. Punk rock became an orthodoxy.
Right.
And our friends, our next door neighbours, the Cortinas, were on the first wave of punk rock, and we were just going and watching them at the Roxy and stuff. And as soon as we all started saying to each other, this group of mates, we want to form a band, we just said, it's not punk to sound like other people. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Which is the most punk thing. But so during doing this interview, that's where you buddied up with Watt?
Yeah.
And he was like, I like your bass man on the...
He's just mad. I mean, telling me a story about when he's a huge fan. He started saying when he found Y Records with a friend, and the cover blew his mind. I mean, and he played some of our songs live, and I knew from a distance, because I used to get this magazine called Maximum Rock and Roll, right?
Yeah.
I knew from a distance that the Minutemen were kosher. In the same way I knew the Discord was kosher, and Mike Watts and Ian Mackay, our equivalent to our, like, they're stalwarts of the state of independence.
Right. Beautiful way to put that.
Do you know what I mean? So I respect them on that kind of DIY standing, controlling the means of, they walk what they talk.
Yeah, and have been. And have to give up on that. And like Watt being one of the nicest guys, like I can hear him be like, oh, that record was a trip. Like doing the whole diving into that. But like, so through like meeting him there, like, did you guys work on stuff then, jam at all, or like share ideas? Like, how did it come to this track, or when you reached out years later?
He came to a show we did in LA.
Yeah.
Right, when I was chatting to some girls from Bratton, it just sort of mutated. I got some stuff off KK Null when we were in Tokyo. I got KK Null to support us. We're constantly sort of throwing ideas at each other, and then after a gig, you go out for a bit and get some food, and you say, "Shall we do this?" And then I just think, right, I'm gonna push him against him. It's like when you're in a scrum, suddenly push some bloke at another bloke and see who wins, and then you take on the other. I'm giving away too much. They were. It's a setup, dude.
Like it was.
He only lost his right arm. But I'm not sure who would win now. I think KK Null would eat him alive because honestly, that's what I'm saying. Just my dialogue with him is kind of lucky that he's into my music. I've got a bit of a card to play, so it is full on. Some of these guys are so. There's this other guy that I'm trying to work with at the moment from this crew called Balbany's Quark, who are like some of the most out there, sort of outsider, sort of electronic guys who've been going forever, and just having to kind of, I know what it's like if people try and get me to do stuff. You're so like questioning even the stuff you do that you want it to be right to let it out the house.
Right.
To work with somebody else, you have to be completely honest, and you have to let the other people express themselves as they want. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the nice thing is we're sort of traveling together, like my friend from Cabaret Voltaire, who we've been mates going way back in time. The pop group did this. I put on this gig for Amnesty International. We got Cabaret Voltaire to play one of their early gigs in London, Linton Kwesi Johnson to do one of his early things. We found out Nico hadn't played for ages. We brought her across from France and gave her a harmonium. You know, it was just a legendary gig, Pop Group Electric Ballroom, with all these amazing acts. And I've been friends with Mally, Stephen Mallender, and Richard H. Kirk, who died last year, for years, and I've always respected them from a distance. And when we see each other, we just have a laugh. We tickle each other. It's the same, you know. People don't understand that it's like being in the Merchant Navy. When somebody's in town, you just have a laugh. You don't talk about work,
right?
But it's been a pleasure, and everybody's supporting, you know. And with the thing with Mally on Cast No Shadow, one of my favourite people, let alone musicians, Eric Random, who's been like a stalwart of the Manchester scene. He used to come and see the Pop Group with Ian Curtis, and he's always been there. He's never pushed for the limelight, but he's always made amazing music, and he's a brilliant bloke. And we're just travelling through together, and you know, when I called, everybody just said yes straight away.
That's awesome.
No hassle.
Yeah.
No hassle, you know.
And like,
it's like the Foreign Legion to a certain extent.
One more time, you clip there. It's like the what?
I said it's like the Foreign Legion to a certain extent.
Got it.
Legionnaire.
What? One, it's awesome. Like, but once that process happens, like, do you have like an idea, or do they just send you bits of things that, hey, can you work on this?
Well, the thing is, I fiddle and I fiddle and I fiddle. I'm sitting in a room with like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of versions of different things, different drum beats and stuff. And I fiddle and I fiddle and I fiddle. And sometimes I go back to something that somebody else would call a demo, but it's called the essence of what was there, and we never made it any better. So, and I just think that will sit better next to that. And then I've thought of the Mikas, you know, it's just really weird. I can't really explain the process. Sometimes and sometimes you just make a decision and you've got to front it.
Right.
You know, it used to be back in the day that you'd run out of money and you needed to get the rest of the advance. So you'd stay up all night and deliver 40 minutes to somebody. And then people years later say it's some groundbreaking work, but it was all stuck together with sellotape and bogies, you know. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, because like I was trying to I'm like all these tracks are like there's so much going on, just like how you were describing earlier, and like listening to it, that's what I'm hearing. I'm like, how does one begin to start this? Like as a musician, I'm like, it has to.
I recommend you don't. I recommend you don't.
I mean, you got Watt on the record. You got a pretty banging lineup. I think it's something that someone might want to start. But that's fascinating, and like it has to be like I agree with what you were saying. Like as a musician, you're constantly in your head with what am I saying? It doesn't make sense to me to put it out. Am I confident?
Yeah, it's got to be honest for me. It's got to be honest for me, especially the words.
Right.
And often I bury the words against the sound because, you know, it's kind of what I want to say, you know, and it doesn't really. It's not. I don't know. I'm loath to analyse my own work because you become schizophrenic. But that is what I've got to say to the world at the moment.
I get it. I don't know. Like, and then when someone's asking you to add to their thing, you're like, well, how can I screw up their song? Here it is. So I can see where there's that like kind of like
but it's kind of like Jasper Johns to work with Bob Fosse,
right? Which
I just turn him upside down and shake all the money out of his pockets. It's kind of oblong, dude. It's an oblong world.
Yeah.
This man who died recently, he was like, God, no. I mean, he wrote these incredible books, but he was a martial arts fanatic, but you could see he was engaging with something as he was walking along, and he was always doing these kind of Tai Chi moves, even when he was talking to you. And I said, you're like chi energy. I said, you're engaging with a field, with something, right? He's going, Mark, can't you see them? I was going, what? He's going, the oblongs.
Oh shit! So he's moving the oblongs around.
That's in the post. I mean, I can't smoke anymore, dude. I've taken 3 of those yellow tablets. What do I take the pink ones now?
You're supposed to mix them, apparently. No.
Mix and match. You must be on something to wear that beanie, dude.
just a nest of hair.
That's the vipers.
It's all scorpions and shit.
Yeah, good band. Winds of Change.
Yeah.
Gorky Park. They should be around now, dude.
But how? Okay, so how's the nursery rhyme album going with Lee Scratch, or at least what you could get? I know that, but like, I thought that was.
I got a couple of the London Falling Down. Yeah. I've got some. There's some sort of works in progress with Lee, and a friend of mine was doing some amazing art with him.
Is that who's in the video?
You kind of feel when somebody goes, it's like when Prince Farai died and a couple of other friends of mine have died recently, right? You feel, I learned quite well because I went to see Tav Falco, right? And a guy came up to me. Tav had written a book about New Orleans or something, right? And a guy came up to me and said, Mark, and I said, hi. He was with a journalist friend of mine, Chris Needs, is really cool. And he said, were you into the Gun Club? And I said, well, I really like their energy. And they kind of, they were playing similar venues and stuff. And they were about the same time as us. And they played them, but, they were cool. I said, but, I didn't really like his hair. And they wore sort of pointy shoes. It's a fashion thing,
Yeah.
I said, but I know Jeffrey was cool, right? And he was friends with some friends. And I said, why? And he said, because I was working with Jeffrey for years, and when he died, I looked after a lot of his unfinished songs and tapes and stuff, and I've just been approaching people to help me finish some of Jeffrey's songs with the blessing of his estate, and the money goes to a cool charity. And I said, well, who else is involved? And he said, Thurston, who's a sort of a mate of mine, Thurston Moore, and he said, Nick Cave, and no, and no. Everybody was... it was a charity project, right? And he's done 2 or 3 of them. And it was quite interesting just trying to make Jeffrey's vision stick. It's a pity if people's work is left unfinished sometimes.
Definitely.
So I learned that. That was quite a process in dealing with dead people.
Right.
I was just watching this film, Lady Frankenstein, but I don't know. I mean, I don't understand. I don't understand death. I really don't understand grieving. I think this whole, I'm more Eastern in those sorts of things. People get up the next spring and celebrate the harvest. Anyway.
Yeah. No, I don't think
this isn't Death Hour, is it? Your podcast?
Well, there's a lot that can be learned about living through death, I
haven't died, so I wouldn't know.
Same. But, I don't know, like, I don't think there's any right way or to know how to grieve, like it's just like that kind of on the whole topic of how you live life.
I'd rather celebrate the person. And to be honest, if somebody knows they're ill or something, I'd rather celebrate the person when they're still around. I don't like it when people get up and start doing eulogies and the person didn't like them when they were alive, Yeah. Anyway, and dining out and design a bit wrong.
Right. And I feel like a lot of eulogies are a lot of, well, they were real loving, it's as cliche as the parameters of the canvas or whatever. Was that that tune, the Shame and Pain, the thing with Thurston?
Yes.
With that? Okay.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah.
So we're like, okay, but to take it back to Lee Scratch, you with Alpha, was that from stuff that was taken from these sessions doing this nursery rhyme stuff, or was that a whole set? Okay.
Well, we were pinging backwards and forwards, and I've got this art group called Bomb Art, and the chief collaborator, Peter Harris, was very tight with Lee. Right, and he was making all these amazing artworks with Lee, and he's very tight with Lee's wife. And I worked with Lee before, and I've been around Lee quite a lot because he works with Adrian, and I've been into Lee Perry's work since I was like 11 or 12. But on this particular song, we were just kind of ping-ponging backwards and forwards, and I was kind of coaxing Lee to give me specific words. You know, like before I did a song with him called Gang War, which was kind of riffing on this song called Political Confusion by Big Youth. But anyway, at the moment I'm working on something with Prince Jasbo, who again is dead. But yeah, as long as, it's, you know, but it's like we'd finished the thing and then suddenly out of the blue, I got a phone call that Leah died, you know.
Yeah.
But so the initial release was for Alpha Boys School, which is amazing. It's this sort of orphanage that takes in sort of street kids, and some of the best musicians in Jamaica have come from this place. So it's all cool. And I mean, Lee had an amazing life.
Yeah, definitely. I just did an interview with Yellow Man, and he went to Alpha, and like it's So that's an amazing cause. And it's, I don't know, it's Lee, like, I found it really cool that you were diving in to do nursery rhymes, because he seems like, I've seen a couple of documentaries and just like excerpts on him, and like my bass player got to see him at one of the last Riot Fest tours they did or whatever, or he was on, and like he's got like this childlike approach to just like elements, like there's this clip of him burning this thing and then water's next to it, and like, but this like artistic way of like appreciating all these things and just being with them. So, and it's really interesting to put that in the context of kind of like dub music and like how he would just experiment with things and do things, and like there's only one stream of like controls on this thing. How can we turn it to make whatever was known as a song as abstract as like how
with very little machinery. Yeah.
Right. So like, because I've also read that your brother or someone within your family was like near or in with skinheads or something. That's what got you into dub music.
Yeah.
Okay. Was it your brother, or am I mixing that up?
Yeah, my older brother.
Okay. So like on the first time of hearing that and being in this whole like kind of like undefined, trying to like be with all these like people who are uniquely doing their own thing or actively going against doing everything, like how does one begin to like understand dub? Because it's like this like subconscious conversation, and like, and when you guys read, or you did a dub version of Why, so like was it like, and worked with a dub producer making Why, so you've kind of been around dub a lot.
We were trying to get King Tubby, but he got shot back in the day.
Yeah.
And the thing is, but I wouldn't separate dub from other things. Like, you know, if you listen to like 12-inch electro mixes, or you listen to, you know, spaced out sort of, there's this stuff called Cosmic Italo, right?
Yeah.
The whole thing of just kind of going skeletal, or, you know, like, you know, or noi, you know, or the whole thing of just like turning stuff off and making space. And, you know, I call dub the music of chance, because you suddenly cut something out and then you unearth a jewel which you didn't hear before. It's kind of the opposite of what Phil Spector or Brian Wilson would do.
Right.
It's kind of smashing the palace and then finding something in the rubble, you know. So it's that kind of technique, and it's that kind of semiotic or praxis, which I found quite interesting. But I dub my life, and I dub accepted theories, and I dub what I think of politics, and I try not to dub relationships, but sometimes I can't. I you know, it's kind of what I do. I can't, you know, I can't stop myself doing that, taking a chance or taking a risk or going against the grain. I've just been writing this thing called Defy the Herd, you know. So, but I can't stop myself doing it. So, you know, we just thought we were trying to get King Tubby to work with us, because, you know, we had a the label said, who do you want to produce? We didn't really know what a producer was. We kind of worked with ourselves, and Charles Bullitt from This Heat had helped us, and we kind of knew what we were, you know, we wanted to experiment in the cinema, in the studio. And I just thought to try and use those techniques with what we were doing, not in a, we weren't playing reggae, but just to, I've been fascinated by those techniques, and I'm fascinated by like bricolage and music concrete, and what really even more important than dub was Tia Macera with Miles Davis on the corner when they do like 40-minute jams and construct the song out of the jam. Like a mad 2-minute bit cut into, and that's what I do. I do multiple dubs with Dennis or Adrian and then chop out little bits and think that'll be the chorus, that'll be that, and move stuff around. Like, on one song we had 82 bits of tape stuck on the wall because I'm trying to get the essence of the most exciting bits. Anyway.
That's beautiful.
I shouldn't let out my state secrets. It's like Kentucky Fried Chicken, my secret sauce.
But that's fascinating. Dub your way through life. That's
yeah. But I must plug. I must plug this new hemorrhoid creams that we're starting to market. That's the way forward for OAPs, old age punks. Dr. Stewart's hemorrhoid. Anusol.
Was it?
Clinker.
And on the bottle is.
You know what they call them in Italy? You know what they call them in Italy?
What?
Tarzanilas. It's like Tarzan swinging on a.
on the bottle is Johnny Rotten with like.
Yeah, like Steve. With Paul Newman's salad dressing. Yeah.
Oh, God.
My mum said that. My dad woke up one night and put toothpaste on his bottom. I said, I don't want to hear about your sex games. Anyway. That's the worst when you hear your parents at it at an early age. You think they're slaughtering a pig or something. But once I woke up at my friend's house, went to the bathroom, and then this gypsy boyfriend had gone out and, what's it called? Got a sheep and was chopping it up in the bath. I thought, oh, for God's sake. Rustling. But what do you call a lad in a pile of leaves?
A lad in a pile of leaves.
Yeah.
Leaf lad.
Russell. Russell.
Put him on.
That's what I should have got Lee to do. One-liners.
That would have been amazing.
They used to say comedy's the rock and roll. I said no, post-punk's a new comedy. Anyway.
That would have been amazing. Oh man, just Lee Scratch Perry comes out with a stand-up album.
Bingo. I know stand-up. Me sit down. Sit down.
It would have been stuff like that.
That was when I first went to gigs. Yeah. Right. I think my brother took me to some heavy, I don't know what it was. I don't think it was progressive. I didn't even know what really, some band called Trapeze or something. Oh, Neil's Log Friend, that was on a trampoline. But the audience would sit on the floor.
Okay.
Have you seen that? Like festivals and Woodstock and stuff. But they did this indoors, like in a, I mean, what they do, the bloody hippies were sat down. I mean, they could sit down at home. Perhaps they had a flying carpet or something. God knows.
Right. Yeah, there's definitely the crowd that should sit down at certain shows, but like...
Well, and I'm lucky, but yeah, if there's chairs, I'm lucky I didn't become... There's always a guy, we used to call them Jesus dancers. There's always a guy at the front who takes his shirt off and just dances all the way through, it does that weird, like...
Yeah, that
rave.
Hippie.
I do that at home all day long anyway. That's why I got food all over my jumper, but there you go. Best to wear a bib. That's why no one wears shirts when they dance like that. Called Eric Bibb. Eric Bibb was in the Raspberries, wasn't he? Wasn't there an American musician called Eric Bibb?
Yeah. And they're
it's
also
not a stage
Cleveland.
name like Vicious. It's his real name.
Right.
Bibb is a family name in America, is it?
From what I understand, that's his name, but...
So you could have a President Bibb.
President Bibb. Yeah. No, Are you doing something with Devo on kind of the...
Yes.
Yeah? What, can you talk about that at all, or is that... No?
No.
Damn! Oh, that's going to be so
First,
cool.
dude. Don't want people pre-ordering something that isn't even finished yet. One day at a time. One day at a time.
I heard that there was... Within verses, there's if you play it backwards, you get like a preview of the Devo track, right?
Totally. And you have to walk backwards.
Yeah.
You have to walk backwards.
Without a shirt.
Chaos magic.
And got to do
magic.
the dance.
It's like the Enthroned. Well, it was Count Zizibak. What were those guys called? The Enthroned. I was just listening to Nihil. Have you heard of Nihil? They're a bit like Nile.
Yeah, I have not. Was it so like?
I love Sleep, the band.
Yeah.
And there's an offshoot band from Sleep called who is the best band I have seen for years. The bass player, and they are locked. Those guys are wicked. Anyway,
if they're anything like John Coltrane's I'm sure it's amazing.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. What's your musical diet? Like, are you constantly, are people suggesting things? Are you crate diving? How are you finding some of these, like...
Crate digging, yeah. I just got a sticker, one of my old hip-hop stickers, crates, milk crates wanted, right? No, I'm a digger. And with YouTube, you can, whatever you guys call it, you can deep dive into Turkish psych.
Yeah.
For the rest of your life, right?
Right.
Anatolian funk. You know, we were just doing some Eastern post-punk. I've got a radio show out of Romania, and it's crazy. But I'll deliberately. I got this motto that taste is a form of personal censorship, so I'll deliberately just pull it back and listen to some Perry Como. You know.
Yeah.
For me, seeing the Osmonds doing Crazy Horses on the Andy Williams show. And Andy Williams' first wife, I believe, was an incredible singer. All sorts. What was I listening to? Romanian gypsy pop this morning.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love Turkish male singers. There's like a Turkish, I was living in a Turkish area, Berlin, and there was like a Turkish sort of MTV, and the guys actually start crying. And in the pop group rehearsals, I start singing. It's not that I know Turkish, but me and my brother had a secret language called Flipskay language, which didn't really mean any sense, but it drove people mad because they thought they couldn't understand what we were saying. And a bit like politics these days. But I'll sing in this cod sort of Turkish language. But it ended up the rehearsal rooms we were in were run by Turkish people. And there's a cafe that was part of it. And there was this, you know what it's like when there's some dude like sat at the head of the table and people are bringing him all these offerings like Caligula. I thought this guy's important, right? And he was a big Turkish rock star. I couldn't get him on Verses, but there you go. That's what I fancy doing next. Yeah.
That would be.
I want to do like
cool.
Nat King Cole when you sing in Spanish really badly.
He pulled it off. But there's definitely something to like just how the language is with Turkish and like how it's approached and the microtonalisms within their music and like the like nine feel. And it's interesting. I have a friend in Turkey who's really into psych rock and all this other stuff, anything that's not Turkish. And it's interesting just like appreciating all these different like cultures like understanding of other things like punk or psych rock or whatever. Like hearing these.
But when it gets removed, you know, you can. There's like this Japanese funk. And I found this thing about Hong Kong disco in the 1970s when something is slightly removed, or like Iranian rock, you know, there's this Iranian death metal band. When you should watch the film Beijing Bubble about the Chinese punk rock scene, you know, when something is kind of twisted and removed, but it even happens in different towns in England. And I was watching the Black Entertainment Channel, and they were saying there's a kind of variation of what they used to call trap. Each town or each little district in Atlanta has got its own beat. Right. Let bang on the rappers. You know, it's crazy.
It is.
But you used to get that into the folk music as well.
Especially with the punk rock in China, just how much they have to go through to do it. Like I talked with what was the group? I'm blanking right now, but he was telling me the whole process of like they had they have to fill these forms, and basically how they have to have all these underground shows with like the Descendants and all these giant bands coming through, and like they can get shut down because some dude has a tattoo on his shoulder of a bird. You know what I mean? Like it's amazing all these like things they have to go through to make it happen, but how it's interpreted and how it's put out, and how like some of those essences of the music, when you listen to it, you don't hear it, but when a different culture does it, you do hear it. But that's super rad. It was funny too, because my friend in Turkey, she wanted nothing to do but not hear anything Turkish.
Yeah.
But awesome, man. Well, Mark, thank you so much for chatting with me today. I've been super excited after Howard gave me the advanced on Versus and diving into it,
Right.
and then diving into your history, and like the record's fantastic, and I'm really excited to hear whatever quote unquote devil things going on. That's going to be amazing, and and also I really appreciate you working around all these communication difficulties we had to get this going.
Respect, straight back at you, mate. Straight back at you, and it's a pleasure to interact with you.
Thank you. Likewise.
Great. Send me some of your music as well.
I would,
please, mate.
Yeah, I would love to get your opinion on it. Like, especially.
Definitely. And if you see we're near your town or you get over here, give me a shout.